So again, welcome everyone to the New York City Accelerator Service Provider and RFQ informational session. My name is Andrew Kringus, the Service Provider Manager, and I will be the event facilitator today. Here's the agenda for today's session. We'll discuss the Service Provider Program status to date, an overview of the New York City Accelerator program itself, the RFQ, or the Request for Qualification, participation requirements, program support for service providers, marketing material and support, our recognition platform, and key points to remember before we take off today. This session shouldn't take up the full hour that's been reserved today, but after the slides are over, we'll encourage a Q&A session where I'll unmute everyone and you can use the chat functions to raise your hands, or if you can see on the Teams app, you can do so, and we can kind of go through and select people to ask questions and kind of do a live forum for everyone. We are also recording today's session for anyone that wasn't able to make it, but we can be able to distribute it later on. And again, on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a chat box. During the presentation, you can direct your questions and comments there. I have Lisa Grayson on, who is the outreach manager for the Accelerator program, and she will help kind of guide the questions and jump in at the end as well if we need some further assistance with the Q&A session. And so we do encourage you to join us on camera if you wish to do so. And with that, I think we can move this forward. So the service provider program status. So before we get into everything, we can give a brief update on where we stand today. So just to recap our timeline here, the service provider RFQ for the New York City Accelerator program was released over 2 months ago on January 11th, 2022. As of today, March 22nd, there are over 122 responses to this document. The first round of service providers came in at around 88 companies based off those who met New York City Accelerator requirements, those who showed up to the required orientation sessions, and those who signed the service provider agreement at the conclusion of these orientation sessions. Applications are rolling on a monthly basis, so that's why you're seeing more responses come in. There was no closing of the door. People can continue to respond to this RFQ. Some companies who have responded to the RFQ fail to meet some of the paperwork requirements that have been, and to send them in on time, which also, postpones your acceptance to the next month. So we want to make sure everything's squared up with the correct paperwork being sent in. And of the 88 companies, 14 are MWBE certified, which is great to see. And we've managed to cast a pretty wide net for the services we want recruited into the program, which leads me to the next slide. So we're going to go over this a bit more further down in the presentation, but you can see the types of services today that have responded so far from different companies, the services that are offered. Companies within this first class and beginning to be the second batch offer a wide variety of services, which is great to see, as we want to offer a comprehensive package to New York City Accelerator participants. And a lot of this information is reflected from the RFQ questionnaire itself. That's where we're getting these general numbers from. The lookup tool, which will be referenced further down this presentation, reflects this information as well. So as you're applying for the program and reviewing the RFQ, you can see the type of services that your company offers and select which ones apply to you. So just take some time. Again, we'll go over this shortly with the presentation, and you can see how these options are being answered to, where we're lacking, where we're doing great in. Really, it's just a big overall view of the program as it stands currently. So yeah, let's keep it moving. So the New York City Accelerator background. What is the New York City Accelerator? Right, this is a question that I get every day at work and outside of work. It's a city program to help control costs, meet local law compliance, boost building performance, increase energy savings, and reduce carbon emissions across New York City buildings. The program is here to provide free technical guidance to help the market accelerate the transformation towards how our buildings are built and operated today. The Accelerator team identifies building upgrade projects to help meet emission limits established under the Climate Mobilization Act, or the CMA, and electrification requirements under the recently passed Local Law 154, which aims to phase fossil fuels out of new construction starting in 2024. With this piece of new legislation, New York City will become the largest city in the world to phase fossil fuels out of new construction. Local law compliance in general is critical to understand where New York City is headed. With help from existing laws, local laws like 84 and 87, Local Law 97, the centerpiece of the CMA, places caps on GHG emissions from existing large buildings. By participating in the program, both existing and new buildings can pursue deep energy measures that enable them to exceed 2030 standards set in the Local Law 97. Remember, buildings may face fines in 2024 and 2030 if they create more carbon than the threshold established for them by the city. Let's continue. The Accelerator, the current iteration of this program was launched in spring 2021 to mobilize real estate stakeholders towards a pathway to decarbonization, achieving compliance with local building energy law requirements, and meeting the city's One NYC goals. So there were previous iterations of this program, but the current one, right, we're in process right now. But why are we so focused on building emissions, right? Building emissions account for such a significant portion of the city's emissions, coming in at 68%, and 90% of the buildings that are here today will still be here in 2050, which means there's a significant problem for the city that needs action taken. Alongside all this, New York City is committed to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050 in a just and equitable way. Right, since buildings account for over 2/3 of the city's emissions, transitioning the building sector to clean energy is critical to mitigating the worst impacts of climate change and presents an opportunity to drive the associated benefits towards communities that need them the most. So how does the program work? New York City Accelerator mainly targets privately owned New York City buildings that are 25,000 square feet or more, with extra room and a specific area for the program that focuses on buildings at or over 5,000 square feet, both new or existing. Smaller buildings that don't meet these standards listed here are generally referred to partner organizations, so they're not left hanging by a thread. And we do have specialists dealing with new construction within New York City Accelerator. Building participants can call, email, or complete the web form that's linked right here in this presentation that we will, again, be sharing with everyone today to get connected to a dedicated account manager on the team. As this building referral is assigned to the account manager, they can evaluate the needs of the building and the specific project that they're pursuing. And our database is loaded with building information regarding previous work or where they stand with potential fines that they'll be facing come 2024 or 2030 for these buildings. And it's at that point that the account manager can refer building participants to the service provider resource list to further help assist them in locating a service provider who can execute that project. And you know, throughout this whole process and throughout the program in general, New York City Accelerator remains vendor agnostic and carries out our daily operations as so. So that's just a key thing to remember as we go through the process. So how can service providers connect building participants to New York City Accelerator? The program is ready to provide additional support and resources for projects that service providers bring into the program. Right, so as an outside neutral entity, New York City Accelerator can further complement service providers and their existing offerings in the marketplace today. Support and verification regarding local law compliance can come in hand when trying to communicate how important this is with building participants. The program has measure-specific tech primers and case studies available to further help educate customers as well. And with these projects that come to New York City Accelerator, they'll be counted towards the service provider engagement and completed project counts, which can be explained further upon in this presentation. Really, it's a two-way road where we can help people move their projects forward. It's not solely account management dishing off referrals. Account management is organized with key specialties, including a finance specialist, an account manager dealing mainly with multifamily affordable housing, multifamily market rate, C&I buildings, new construction, and a team of solar specialists. There's no catch, there's no cost to take advantage of these services that are offered in the program. The accelerator doesn't perform installs. Rather, we connect people like providers on this call today, or anyone else that we had connected with at the New York Build Expo, to those who can do the work. The account managers have the capacity to visit sites, but again, we're not doing the audits. We're identifying and looking for opportunities for decision makers to act upon. We're not taking away from the existing marketplace or competing with others. We're a free service aimed at touching as many buildings throughout the city as possible. And with an ambitious goal of engaging over 6,000 buildings, we want to keep the conversations moving and making sure we're accommodating for each project that may come through the accelerator program. So the service provider program. The role of the service provider program is to actively refer building owners, facility, and property managers to companies listed within the New York City Accelerator service provider network. It's to encourage and enhance market transformation for the city. We're here to support job creation, workforce development, and economic opportunity with a specific focus on MWBE engagement. We want to build the service provider sector to accelerate the implementation of decarbonization projects. And we want to create a service provider network that serves as an extension or force multiplier of the New York City Accelerator outreach team to increase participation within the program. Some of the benefits to these service providers include growing your business through referrals from New York City Accelerator, earning inclusion in New York City Accelerator's service provider lookup tool, working directly with dedicated account managers based on your projects, getting recognized through New York City Accelerator's recognition program, expanding your skills and growing your team, participating in industry networking events and trainings, and gaining access to specialists on board, including the financing specialists that we have. Moving on to the request for qualification. So I'm not sure if people have seen the request for qualification, but there are some submission requirements, including for applicable categories, providers being enrolled with the following utility or state programs or incentive programs, right through Con Edison or National Grid or NYSERDA. We ask for project references, concise description of the services that are offered, geographical work preferences within the city per borough, sectors primarily served within the market, like specifically working with affordable housing or commercial, industrial, healthcare, etc. Your average project revenue size for the projects you've done in the past, a certificate of insurance, just for simple proof of insurance, and other certifications and licenses, including MWBE, or if you have PEs on staff, we would love to know. We also ask for a W-9 form, a brief description on why the provider wants to be a part of the accelerator program, and at least one project that you're ready to move on or further engage with the accelerator with. So this is what I mentioned earlier with the program status that's up to date. These are a list of the general categories that we're casting our very wide net out to the service provider community, or to building owners or participants that need such services acted upon. There's from lighting to potential legal support to geothermal, green roofs, cool roofs, with a main focus on energy conservation measures, right? We want to be continuing to reduce emissions, decarbonizing buildings through these specific services. So the criteria for selection, as we kind of funnel in on who can participate and how we evaluate these submissions. So for applicable service sectors where a utility or NYSERDA program exists, We want to confirm that the applicant is an approved provider for these Con Edison or National Grid or NYSERDA programs. So for example, right, if you're actively doing lighting retrofits throughout the city or working on general HVAC upgrades or retrofits, these are the types of services that would be applicable to Con Edison or National Grid or NYSERDA programs that we would love to see people participating in. If there's services that fall out of these categories that you are offering, then that serves for a one-on-one conversation. We can review this with you. We can tell off the application where you would fit with these programs. We're checking references that are sent in just to back up the work that was done in the past. General screenings with the Better Business Bureau checks and other general issues of concern to make sure that nothing is adding up in the long run, that everyone is saying who they're saying they are, and that the services that are being offered can be backed up. And once the companies meet basic requirements, they are also going to be reviewed by the this is a mistake, sorry, it should be MOC and EJ, the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, alongside the Accelerator team, just to make sure that if any other people have worked with them, they can all write off and say that these are great submissions for the program. Participation requirements. So once a service provider were to be selected, they're required to join an orientation session that are held monthly. So the next session, as we just finished up our March sessions, would be on Tuesday, April 19th, Wednesday, April 20th of next month. Also, again, remember that we try to hold these every third Tuesday and Wednesday of the month. And more importantly, as new staff members that may join your team, or if someone missed an orientation session for some reason, they're more than able to join, even if you yourself have joined, because we want to make sure that we aim to educate any new member of the program and not putting that responsibility directly on the company or the service provider themselves that are engaged with the program. And alongside the required orientation, a service provider agreement that's needs to be signed, reviewed, and sent back to the program to make sure everything checks out. And once all these items are taken care of, we then focus in on how to maintain an active status within the program. And this is done so by the service provider engaging with at least 6 projects and completing at least 1 per year. So to further define these terms, an engagement is with the participant includes contact by phone, email, or in person to initiate a decarbonization project. And completing projects means that the service provider has successfully implemented the proposed decarbonization project at the participant's location. And project completion will be verified by the program. And now again, to further kind of clear up this process, if your specific service is conducting an audit, that is your engagement, that's your project, right? We're not asking for everyone to be installing new lights and new HVAC systems, and there's different services that are coming into the program, meaning that it'll be different projects for each company should they be offering these different services. So I hope that can clear things up, and we're more than likely going to talk about it at the end of this session. And just more general requirements. We ask that providers be responsive and collaborative with the service provider manager and account managers alike. There will be monthly check-ins with providers to make sure we're receiving project updates. Failure to keep up to date with reporting projects risks expulsion from the Accelerator service provider program. Go further into detail. These monthly reporting metrics that we will be aiming to collect. First is understanding the buildings that you're working with, including their addresses or their borough block lot numbers or their BBL numbers, which are numbers that we keep to track project progress as it evolves. Our database is updated with buildings throughout the city based on their BBL numbers. So if you're not familiar with BBL numbers, they're a 10-digit number where the first digit is for the borough number, the next 5 are for the block number, the last 4 are for the lot number. And as an example, you can see these generally listed on your building energy efficiency grade markers on buildings that you see throughout the city. Next to that, we ask for the specific the specific ECM, the energy conservation measure being proposed for the project, as that is also tracked in our database. And alongside that, we're going to ask for an expected start and completion date. And as projects move throughout their timeline, we can track the statuses in our database, whether they're marked as closed, if there was an inquiry sent, if they're engaged with the accelerator, if they're out for bid, if it's in construction, and most importantly, if it was completed, or also most importantly, why it wasn't completed, right? We want to see both sides and where these projects stand. Again, so this information is shared just with the accelerator team and reported to the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. And it's with this data that we can move closer towards hitting the program goal of touching over 6,000 buildings throughout the city. So general accelerator management support can be expected to stay in contact with service providers on a regular basis, checking in with project referrals and tracking any of your project reporting. That's going to be done by me. You know, I'm here to answer any questions service providers may have, or anyone on the outreach team as well. I can put you in touch with. I'm available for one-on-one meetings with providers or for requested to join customer calls for further reassurance. Based on building type, I can further assist with connecting providers to account managers based off, you know, again, the projects and the buildings you're pursuing. And I'll continue to work with providers and account managers to identify potential case studies to be developed by New York City Accelerating marketing team. Which brings us to our marketing materials for providers. Participating service providers will be provided with an NYC Accelerator approved logo to use on existing marketing channels like your company website or newsletters, your signature email blocks, and social media platforms. The service provider badge will be distributed to providers once selected and once the agreement has been sent in to verify participation in the program. And alongside that, providers will have access to New York City Accelerator collateral material when operating out in the field, material of which has been developed in different languages should you need it. Some more tools here for providers. It's coming soon, the marketing toolkit, which is designed specifically for providers and includes promotional language and imagery for web, LinkedIn, or email services, NYC Accelerator badge usage guidelines, co-branding guidelines for existing accelerator program handouts, and LinkedIn trainings. There's also an energy efficiency financing toolkit that's going to be made available to providers. This was recently finished and ready to be shared for today's presentation. So I'm excited to share this with people at the conclusion of today's session as it's being made available through this link here. And again, yeah, marketing will continue to help identify case studies to be identified or recommended. Some more marketing support for providers includes the building referral form. So I'm not sure if I've spoken to you or if you spoke with us at the Expo event at the Javits Center. We may have mentioned this referral form, which invites individuals to refer buildings directly to the NYC Accelerator for technical assistance. Once buildings are referred to this form, which you can see on the presentation here, the accelerator reviews the referral form. It gets assigned to the account manager and it dishes it out back to the providers to do the work and to get the ball rolling with these projects. So basically, the more buildings we can get referred through to the accelerator means the more opportunity for providers to work with. And so this is one of the ways we can get that done. Some optional support for providers include office hours that are held to block out an hour or two or whatever the case may be to get some questions answered, refresher trainings and onboarding sessions, which again offered monthly, the Energy Efficiency Learning Center, the EELC, our online learning platform, which is available for providers, technical trainings and networking events once they're online, the New York City Accelerator internship program, and finally, the NYC Accelerator's recognition program, which takes us into the next slide. So launching in May 2022, this is designed to recognize the hard work that's being accomplished by providers in New York City Accelerator. We encourage, again, all providers to partake in the recognition platform, as it's a great way to distinguish the work that you're doing in the program and get acknowledged for this. And again, we'll have more details available soon as we're working towards that launch date come May. And just some key points today as we wrap up, just to remember before we take off. So again, enrollment remains open. There hasn't been a cutoff date. We're accepting submissions on a monthly basis. New applicants will be reviewed and admitted monthly. And the provider list, the online lookup service tool that we're trying to create, will be updated as more providers are accepted. So it's, we're going to update on the go as we move through the program. Onboarding and refresher trainings to be held every third Tuesday and Wednesday of the month, scheduling permitting, of course, with the next two being held on Tuesday, April 19th and Wednesday, April 20th, 2 p.m. and 10 a.m. to accommodate for people's scheduling. The Energy Efficiency Learning Center, the EELC, for on-demand technical trainings. We encourage people to look into this, to participate in these technical trainings, and to see what's online for providers to take advantage of. Be on the lookout for monthly check-ins with providers as we move through the program, and I orchestrate these and schedule them with companies that become accepted into the program. And to participate in the recognition program, the recognition platform program. It's a great way for your company to stand out in the marketplace today. And most importantly, we encourage everyone to utilize the Service Provider Manager, myself. We want to hear from you. We want to learn from you as much as you want to learn from Accelerator. We want to know what resources and tools that you may need to transform New York City's marketplace. So really, you can help us help you in the long run. And with that, I just want to thank everyone again for joining today's session. Again, your participation with the Service Provider Program and New York City Accelerator in general is vital to the acceleration of achieving New York City's decarbonization goals today. So with that, we can leave with any questions, keep my contact information up, and I'll move to unmute everyone. But please do remain muted if you don't have a question. And if you do have a question, please do raise your hand through the reactions function at the top of your screen. We can see who has questions at the moment. So yeah, let me see if I see Lisa's been active. Chat. Here's the first question.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Lisa. It looks like I've answered a couple of the questions. I think we're down to the question, do you already have a BIPV provider? And I have to apologize. I don't know what a BIPV provider is. So if you want to add that in the chat or unmute yourself and explain what that stands for.
Yeah, sorry. It basically means building integrated photovoltaic.
That's okay. Okay. I thought it was photovoltaic. So with the solar program, it is part of our program and part of the accelerator services that we offer. As Andrew mentioned, we have a solar specialist team that is part of the overall team. So any project that comes to us that has an interest in solar, that team handles, and they'll walk the building participant through, assessing the building for feasibility, and then helping them through the RFP process and selecting the provider, etc. If you are interested in participating as a service provider in the solar part of the program, we can connect you with our specialist team, and they can vet you as a participant that way. It's not it doesn't that the solar providers don't run through our program as the other service providers do. It's kind of a different approach.
Oh, okay. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Very
So if you could just send an email to Andrew following the session today, that would be great, and he can get it over to that team, and they'll get in touch with you.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, the presentation will be sent out, and it has been recorded, I think, yes.
Yeah.
And and as far as I know, we can share a recording of it as well. We have a question here. Who is your ideal service provider? An ideal service provider is one that brings projects to the program and collaborates with our team, to make sure that we're addressing as many measures in the building as possible, to help that building decarbonize to the fullest extent. So, just a very collaborative service provider is what we're looking for. And, as well as collaborating with other service providers. So again, it's a team effort, and I think we need to, figure out how to work more collaboratively to bring, a full scope of services to these buildings to move them down the decarbonization path. All right, so how do you see architects and designers as contributing services for the existing building? Okay. Okay, so architects and designers obviously are very important, especially for new buildings as they're being designed, and we would see them participating through our new buildings team. But obviously, you're very involved with renovations and remodeling efforts and making sure you're designing and specifying equipment and approaches and speccing, everything from insulation to windows to mechanical systems that are going to minimize energy use and reduce carbon emissions. So again, being very tuned into electrifying buildings and designing all electric buildings as we move into the future.
I think Tim has his hand raised. Just wanna.
Okay.
Tim, if you want to unmute yourself, feel free.
Oh yeah, thank you. Hi, I was just wondering if you are anticipating having a maximum number of service providers in any one of the categories, not capped or wide open.
No, I don't think there's a cap. We want to make sure though that we're, if we're lacking in any areas, we might focus more recruitment for the numbers that are a bit lower compared to a bit higher of the submissions that we're getting. But as it stands right now, we want to make sure that we're in a pretty early ramp up phase of the program to make sure that we're kind of covering all bases with the RFQ that we have out. So I would say no, unless further directed to or down the line. But I don't think so right now. We're trying to cast that wide net and make sure we're getting a lot of participants engaged with the program. Is that all?
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks. If you want to just hit the raise your hand function again, it'll take your hand out. Unless you have other questions, but I think we got that for you. Is the program open to all service providers regardless of company size, or are only MWBEs and independent consultants encouraged to participate? The program's open to providers of all walks of life, right? The focus on MWB engagement is just part of the New York City Accelerator program at large that we want to be continuing to keep these firms, companies, and participants engaged with the program as, it's to be delivering these services in a just and equitable way to have everyone included at the table, and just to see a fair representation with MWBs engaged in the program just as much as any other company that were to respond to this RFQ. That was to Gloria. who is our competition? That's from owner. I think that wrote in a name. Again, we're not trying to compete with anyone. It's a city-backed program to offer these free high-level suggestions and guidance and consulting to building participants and service providers who engage with the program. And it's, we shouldn't be viewed as competition because we're not competing with anyone in the market. This is really to boost the market, to boost service provider engagement, to also boost the building participant side on lowering emissions, lowering the potential fines. This was really set out from the city and the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice to do exactly as so. Lisa, I don't know if you want to, I saw you unmuted yourself for a second, but.
No, I think you got it, unless someone has wants to add to that question or has more.
No, I confirmed. Sorry, I can't see the name that was written in for there, but thank you for asking. And thank you, Gloria, as well. I see you're responding. Okay. See if anyone. So again, yeah, we have plenty of time for this Q&A session. It can go for as long as we really want through 2 o'clock. If people have more questions, if you want to write them in, raise your hands. We wanted to give enough time. We always think that this is the most productive time where people can really ask these questions directly to us, be as open and transparent as possible. This whole presentation was generated from the context that we got from the New York Build Expo. And I think it was forwarded to a bunch of other participants as well, but that was the main goal here from everyone that we met a couple weeks ago at the Javits Center. So it's good to see such a solid turnaround, right, on the responses that we got in the context. To see this level of engagement still is great to see. So supposedly every building in the city that needs to decrease its level of carbon emissions will work with you. Well, that is the goal, but unfortunately that's not how it works in the long run, right? We saw at the Expo event that a lot of building owners don't even realize that they're going to be fined in 2024 and 2020 and 2030 with the local laws that are going into place, which was really eye-opening for us to see. And that's really, it comes back around to the main goals of the outreach and the education and the uptick with this program, really is to get these buildings throughout the city. If it is every building in the city, then that's great, but I don't think it will be, unfortunately, just with lack of communication and outreach. But we're doing our best at Accelerator to really get that word out, to engage with these utility programs and incentive programs through NYCERDA, to really stretch the outreach out as far as we can get it through trade ally networks and events like the New York Build Expo, and just trying to get out there and get this good word out that fines are coming and buildings need to start focusing in on reducing these emissions and thinking about the next steps for any projects that they can have online. Yeah, thanks. I see your response in there. I don't want to butcher your name, but I see the names coming in if I mispronounce it. Are you open to different kinds of efficient energy standards? Lisa, I don't know if you see this question in there, but if you want to take this.
I do see it. I'm not sure I understand it in terms of different types of energy efficiency standards.
If you want to further elaborate, if you want to take yourself off mute, feel free. But any follow-up on that would be great. Or you can follow up with me on the side. You have my contact information, so we can definitely get on a call if you need to, or whatever fits for you. What standards will you require, if any? So,
I mean, I'll jump in here. I'll try to take a stab at it. Mm-hmm. In most cases, there is a utility program associated with an upgrade that you may be doing in a building. So, you know, if it's lighting and it's in a Con Ed territory, that Con Ed program will require certain types of, you know, fixtures, lamps, bulbs to be used, and it will require like a lighting worksheet to calculate savings, and it will incentivize that project based on you know, its savings calculations. So those are, okay, windows are certified for thermal efficiency. Okay, so again, we're not, you know, kind of the standard creators, you know, we're just here to promote the measures generally. So if windows are certified for thermal efficiency, and there can be, you know, some kind of modeling or calculations to show what it will save, you know, that you know, would definitely count as a service, an upgrade that, you know, we would want to see done. So again, it's not, we don't set the standards, and, you know, but we do need to verify that the measures were installed.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that helps. It looks like I may have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Yeah, so again, as I was saying, you know, a lot of the upgrades, a lot of the equipment going into buildings are developed with the TRM, which is the Technical Resource Manual. And so those are calculated and kind of standardized savings numbers that the utility programs and the utility commissions use.
Yes. See a hand raised if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Please
so
do.
Thank you, Andrew and Lisa. My name is Antoine, by the way. So
Okay. I was leaning towards that, but I just want to make sure. Thanks.
So just for myself, I work at the Belgian consulate here in NYC. And for me, this presentation is really interesting because I represent some of Belgian companies specialized in those building and photovoltaic, but also city lighting. I was wondering, what about the buildings of the city which belongs to the city? Are you also taking care of those? I was thinking of, you know, smart cities, specialized company that could help. Also, are you also in charge of that? I don't know if it's clear for you what I mean.
No, I think I know. We're with the accelerator. We're mainly targeting privately owned buildings. We're not touching like any NYCHA housing or city related buildings.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. So David, does New York City Accelerator put together a whole building plan for decarbonization, boiler, windows, roof, photovoltaic, etc., or is that something that a service provider would be engaged for? So with the service provider engaging with Accelerator, we could help, you know, continue to offer these suggestions for the building. This is exactly kind of what we want to do for building engagements, kind of tackle a whole building plan, or as much as of it that can possibly be done for the building. You know, every building's different case by case, but your question is exactly how we want to approach these buildings and really get to some deeper retrofits when it comes to reducing emissions and engaging these buildings with such services. I don't know if that answers your question. If you want to ask.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that. We have a team that does look at helping buildings kind of, you know, that are looking at a whole building approach. Obviously, we want buildings to take on as many measures and look at it holistically. But if a building's looking at long-term plan and looking at multiple systems, yes, we do offer those services, and we'll help that building walk through that process, and as well as help them walk through the process of identifying potential financing approaches. So, it's something that we, if that's a service that you're offering to do the whole building plan, and, that's fabulous. And if you, want to team with us to collaborate or to support you and complement your offerings in some way, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Thanks, Lisa. David, I hope that answers your question. Jim, I see you raised your hand. If you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Is there a entry for a comprehensive solution? I didn't see it on the list of measures.
Sorry, Lisa, if you were going. If you're offering those comprehensive solutions, I think the way you would go is selecting the offerings that you're putting through the market through the RFQ. We have those multiple selections for the different services that you're offering. So if you're able to reference multiple services for your one company, then that's great. And that's how you would be represented down the long run when it comes to the resource list and how people can view the different services that you're offering, right? We're able to see that they can do A through Z. That's fantastic, very comprehensive solutions for whichever building ends up moving forward with you. But yeah, I think that's been a common question as well, Lisa and I have been getting, but right now that's how you would.
It would be something I would also encourage you to include in your company description.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you would highlight that service as a comprehensive offering.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are great questions. Joan, if you want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Quick question. So on the website, the New York City Accelerator website, I noticed it says participating contractors, and you click on it, but it really is just the RFQ there. Is that going to eventually just list us then?
Yeah, so they were in a ramp-up phase for getting an updated website online, and the list of already approved contractors and providers is circulated internally for the account management use, and we're working towards finalizing how we're representing companies on the list publicly, right? Public facing and getting more involved with who's seeing the list and whatnot. But yes, right, as of now on Accelerator's website, it does take you directly to the RFQ. We are fully aware of that, but we don't think that your participation is not being seen, right? It's still being circulated through our channels, and we're making sure that people who are capable of the services that are being referred to, or if our account management team is talking to building portfolios and participants, they have a list on their behalf to reference for services.
Okay, looking forward to it being on both.
Exactly. Sorry, that's more on our end to figure out and get up and running. So we apologize for that.
No, I just wanted to make sure it would be in the future. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
I don't see any other write-in questions. Jim, not sure if you have another question, but your hand is still raised if you want to hit the reactions, and there we go. Thanks. Cool. I'm not seeing any more writing questions come in, but again, this has been a great Q&A session. This is where we see a lot of productivity, so this is great. We can wait a little bit, a couple more minutes, see if anything else comes in, but I think that's all we have for today. If you are unaware of how to access the RFQ, or if you haven't seen it yet, again, as Joan just mentioned, it is live on our website. If you go to New York City Accelerator, the link is under participate with a contractor or reference a contractor, you can click the link and find the RFQ, or if that's too much, you can email me right now and I can send it to you. It's no heavy lift. We want to make sure everyone is accessing the document and just getting more involved with Accelerator, see if it's a good fit for them. Okay. And again, we will distribute the slide deck. We'll work on getting the recording finalized and distributed as well if it's requested. And really the next steps of engagement is potentially responding to the RFQ, reaching out to me with further questions. It's whatever people are, wherever you're at with the engagement with Accelerator. All right. Seeing too much else come in. So again, I just want to thank everyone for participating today. This has been really productive and good to see the level of engagement come out from one event. So we're really happy to see everyone show up and to see this interest come in. And we'll be in touch with these slides and anything else that you may need. So thank you. Thank you for joining today.